Bison Media Zone on WDAY Extra.
And welcome everybody to the Bison Media Zone each and every Wednesday here on WDAY Extra. The Forum's Mike McFeely joins me in studio here. You know, we have different seasons. We have the actual playing of games. We have recruiting season, and we need a flashy, portal season. We have it in football.
I think that's what it is.
Holy cow.
It's SZN. That's what all the kids are doing. So it's portal season SZN.
You know, you can debate about the timing of it, Mike, because I don't know is it taken away from you from the enjoyment of actually watching the tournaments play out?
Nope. And
so,
maybe
to me it's even more fun to see what's happening.
Yes, because you can you can see a game is played, a team loses, the next day 5 kids are in the portal from that team. And by the way, the coach also has moved on to a bigger and better job. It's all college sports are just insane right now. I don't know that it's good. I don't know that it's good or bad. I really don't.
It's unsustainable though, right? I think.
I believe it is. Yes, I believe it is. And I've talked to enough coaches that just the coaches will consistently say, yes, I understand the need for kids to have some freedom, but the current model is unsustainable because we're talking about, kids going from school A at a lower level to maybe a mid-major and being offered $100,000 at another mid-major, and it's like, what? How does this work? All these athletic departments are all subsidized by student fees, except at North Dakota State and Montana, because but in Iowa State, James Madison, it's all subsidized by the students, and so how do you keep this model going if you're talking tens of millions of dollars in NIL and everything else? It's crazy.
You can't. It's
nuts.
It's a runaway train right now. North Dakota State's right in the mix of it. The Bison have had 5 departures since the season ended. Andrew Morgan, of course, went in on Friday. I don't think either one of us were surprised on that.
No, I think both of us heard down in Sioux Falls at the Summit League tournament that was a possibility, a likelihood.
And from what our good friend Darren Wolfson out of KSTP reporting, he's going to visit with the Gophers tomorrow. I think, again, you can make a logical conclusion with that he could possibly go there. And that's being a Waseca kid, a farm kid. I mean, he's offered by Iowa out of high school to go play in the Big Ten.
I mean, look, Andrew Morgan's a 6'10", 240-pound big, as the coaches say, who can step out a little bit and shoot threes. He's strong. He's athletic. He's agile. I mean, he's a good player. I think at times Bison fans and probably even Bison coaches got a little frustrated because maybe we all thought he should be a more dominant Summit League player and kind of be able to take over games. But, I mean, you can see on these highlights, the kid can move at 6'10", and that's a valuable commodity.
Especially in that conference?
Yes.
That's a player you take.
And what I'd heard in Sioux Falls was he might even be better in the Big Ten.
That's a remarkable statement.
Because the Summit League, he's always chasing around smaller players around the perimeter trying to play defense that way. In the Big Ten, which is more of a rough and tumble, low block type of league, he's going to look better and play better there because that's more his game. Even though he is agile and athletic, I mean, he doesn't want to guard somebody who's 6'5". He wants to guard somebody who's 6'10".
And the frustrating part, I think, there were times you and I would text during games that just he would have the great move but unable to finish at the rim. And that was the part, I think, that bedeviled him and the coaching staff of it. You have the great move, but just couldn't finish.
But that got better at the end of the year.
I think so, too.
Another thing, I mean, let's be honest, is that the way that North Dakota State runs its offense, the ball goes into him, and there's 3 guys on him. Right? I mean, and so I thought Andrew this year, did a better job of not getting frustrated. That it was clear his first couple of years that when a double team would come, Andrew would get frustrated and sort of like, I don't want to say disappear, but certainly not be as noticeable and aggressive. I thought he did a better job this year, but with North Dakota State not having a lot of other offensive options, they needed another guy, right? I mean, they needed a slasher just to take the heat off of Morgan, and they never could quite find that guy this year.
There are 5 open scholarships, up to maybe 6, Mike, depending on how Dave Richmond wants to do this. I know they've offered the Jackson Money kid out of West Fargo Cheyenne.
They're not getting him.
Probably not, right?
Nope. I mean, there's bigger schools already offered him, and the word is behind the scenes that there's bigger schools looking at him that maybe have not offered yet. So he's going to be a tough get for Dave.
This is going to be really interesting to see the kind of player that Dave goes and adds to the roster. It can't just be, and I think he understands, the 6 high school kids that he uses with these available scholarships.
And if you believe Twitter, some of these portal watchers, that Dave has at least the North Dakota State program has at least talked to. I don't know. There's a big difference between reaching out to and offering. That is a huge gulf. That is a huge gulf. So I'm not saying he's offered, but they have at least reached out to a number of Division II kids, and then a couple of other mid-major players, and that that kind of seems to be what North Dakota State and Dave Richmond will tell you this, and Jory Collins will tell you this, and Paul Sather will tell you this, and even Matt Entz had told me this, that North Dakota State isn't a portal destination. You know, football's different because it's football. But for basketball, if you're leaving Butler to go find a place to play, North Dakota State's not going to be at the top of your list. You know, even if you and if you're leaving Iowa State, now Eli King went to Grand Forks, but that's a connection. There's connections between him and B.J. Omott and Trace Niegelstaff and Paul Sather, and so that's why that happened. It's awful tough for a kid from Iowa State to go, you know what? I'm going to go to Fargo and play some basketball. That's no knock on Dave Richmond. It's no knock on NDSU. It's
reality.
It's just reality of where the pecking order is.
And speaking of which, South Dakota State is now dealing with that. Its 2 best players are in the portal. Zeke Mayo announced yesterday. And this is an indictment. We'll get on this as well, where we're at. It's the 3rd year in a row the Summit League Player of the Year has left early to go into the portal.
But it's going to happen.
But that's the thing. We're setting ourselves up for that. Mayo was offered and got, I think, a pretty substantial amount of money to stay in Brookings last season. He's going to double, triple that, I'd imagine.
At least I would think, and that's I had heard, as you had too, that even early in the season, we were hearing that this was Zeke Mayo's last year at South Dakota State. I don't think anybody was surprised at all about that. William Kyle III, a little more surprising, although after we watched him up close for multiple days in the Summit League tournament, I went, okay, he's not sticking around either. He's gone too. And again, if you believe these portal guys on Twitter,
list some of these schools.
William Kyle III, who's an explosive guy that really has limited offensive skills other than just dunks and layups, which is that's valuable. He has at least heard from Wisconsin, Nebraska, Kansas, Florida, Kansas State, Butler, Wake Forest, Boise State, Iowa State, LSU, Oklahoma, Arizona State, Virginia Tech, Nevada, San Francisco, California, Oregon, Iowa, Arkansas, Clemson, and South Florida. That was in 24 hours after saying he was going in the portal.
Wow. And he had, I mean, you look what he did in the Summit League tournament. Like we said, we're like, this isn't happening.
He's not sticking around.
The game he had in Fargo, where he was dunking all over the Bison in the final regular season game, I thought,
explosive,
there's no way.
6'8", 6'9".
And he's from the same high school as one Frankie Fiddler. I don't know if that's a package deal. We know he's in there. That
there's also a kid for Wisconsin who is also from that same high school.
Chucky Hepburn. So I mean, if you want
to go, not that I'm a conspiracy theorist.
We could start drawing, putting 2 things together. I mean, why? If you're a school like any of those top ones, let's go get both of them.
Well, it's tougher. And you and I have talked about this privately. That boy, what a package that would be. But after talking to some people in the game, they're like, well, it's kind of tough because they're different positions and they're 2 spots, and you're talking double the NIL and all this other stuff. I mean, Frankie Fiddler is going to be a big-time FBS, Power 5
Power 6
player.
Call it
I don't know that William Kyle is going to be a big-time guy. I mean, he's going to go to a big-time school. I don't know that he's going to, but Frankie Fiddler is going to be a big-time scorer in the Power 5. And really a kid that came up at Omaha, scrawny, under-recruited. I saw him, I've shared the story before. I went to an Omaha practice, and I saw Frankie Fiddler at practice standing about from me to the camera away. He is a big, thick guy now. I mean, he is a man.
So Eric had this graphic made, and for viewers at home to really emphasize the impact that the portal has had on the Summit League, this is the awards that came out just 3 weeks ago when the conference season ended. For the first team, Tommy Bruner knew was done. All-league player from Denver. His eligibility was up. After that, everybody else outside of Jamar Brown is back. Bruner done, Mayo gone, Omott gone, Fiddler gone, Kyle gone. This is the norm, Mike. We're going to have to get used to this going forward.
And the second team players, Andrew Morgan and Tyree Iheanacho.
Gone.
Gone.
Yeah. Raheem Anthony's out of eligibility. Isaac McBride just went in yesterday.
Oh, he did? Okay, I did
Oral
not see that.
Roberts
I did not
into
see
the
that.
portal. I mean,
And Parker Bjorklund's done.
Yeah. Bjorklund's out of eligibility, and Iheanacho's on that list, who's also in the portal.
Wow.
It's gone.
Yep. And so
That's it. That's where we're at now.
And Kansas City has about 6 or 7 kids in the portal,
Yes.
and Oral Roberts has 5 or 6 or
Up
7
to
kids
6
in the
now.
portal as well.
To go with the Bison with their 5.
Yep. But and it's again there's a difference in who's going in. You know, when Andrew Morgan goes in, that is a major blow to North Dakota State.
Correct.
When some of I love Josh Strite and what he brought to the table for NDSU, but him going in is a survivable, manageable situation.
Loss there. Yep.
Right. But it's
and Isaac McBride going in for Oral Roberts.
Yeah.
That's a huge blow for a team that was not good this season.
No.
That's tough. If you're Eric Henderson, granted I don't know how much longer he'll be the coach at South Dakota State.
Right.
There's some jobs open.
Yep.
His entire starting lineup is gone.
Yeah, and some of that, I mean, college basketball has always been. You're going to lose, 2 guys a year,
Yeah.
but there's always been guys coming up. But it's just how long can you sustain it? In South Dakota State, they can get guys. It's an attractive place. They spend a lot of money on basketball, both men's and women's, more than North Dakota State does. And whether Eric Henderson is there or the next guy is there, you're going to be able to get some guys to South Dakota State. It's a different situation in Fargo.
No doubt.
Just basketball's not emphasized like it is in Brookings.
Speaking of which, we'll take a break. We come back. We'll chat some football. The Bison are their second week of spring ball. Pro Day wrapped up as well. We'll chat about that. With Mike.
When does that portal open? When is that? We got to watch that coming up too. About a month.
Got
oh,
2
2 weeks.
April 15th.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
We're back on the BMC right after this. Back here on the Bison Media Zone, you're seeing video from yesterday of NDSU Pro Day. 5 former Bison participated. Jalen Sundell, you see Zach Mathis, Jake Kubis, Jaden Price, and Tamarick Williams, all part of it. The NFL again made its annual trip. Jalen Sundell said, there's no doubt that the past offensive lineman success has certainly led that, hey, they're open the door for me to get an opportunity, and we'll see what ends up happening between now and the NFL draft, which is a little less than a month away. There's certainly not a guy like a Cody Mauk or a Christian Watson that we've had that the last couple of years, but there's some talent here.
Yeah, there is. I don't think that any of the guys. I don't think anybody's going to be drafted. I mean,
Sundell maybe
late,
on day
5th,
3.
6th, or 7th round on day 3.
Yep.
But other than that, the guys might get a rookie invite or something.
Pro Days at South Dakota State today. That's an intriguing one to see how that
Well,
goes
yeah,
there.
but they're kind of in the same boat. I mean, they got some guys that are later round draft choices, and then some other guys who are going to be kind of free agents, and some of those guys always seem to make it, right? I mean, which is why they do this. But I mean, we have thought the last couple of years that maybe North Dakota State didn't have like just the loads of talent that they've had in the past, Dom, and I think that shows up at the Pro Day this year. You're talking about one guy possibly being a late draft choice.
When the last 2 years we thought, well, is Christian Watson a first-round pick? Is Cody Mauk a first-round NFL draft pick?
Correct.
That just shows you the talent gap maybe is the best way to and it's not to say the Bison don't have any. They still did.
No, they do.
Just not that elite
Not
level.
multiple first and second round. I mean, they had multiple first and second round draft choices on the 2019 team.
And if Sundell ends up getting and Kubis, I think Ross Uglum shared this photo yesterday. That entire starting offensive line in the national championship game against Montana State will be professional players.
Yes. Yep.
All 5 of them.
In the National Football League, and that's and plus again, Watson, Lipke, Lance. I mean, they had like 13 NFL players on one team.
Write a book about that one day. The 2020 team, what could have been. The 2024 team is still figuring there. There's the photo there. So you got Volson, Kubis, Sundell, Nash Jensen, and Cody Mauk out there on the outside.
Yeah. Wow. Yep. That's not bad. That is not bad.
The new look offensive line is something, again, only in Fargo if people focus on what's the offensive line going to look like, but that is the characteristic of the North Dakota State football team. And I was up at practice yesterday. We visited with Tim Polisic, who's on the show. That is 3 spots up for grabs, something we talked about that it's really interesting as we get ready for the end of spring ball into fall camp.
Yeah, I think you asked him straight up, is it a concern? And coaches will never say that they have a concern.
About anything.
About anything, even though they do. But if you have 3 spots up for grabs in spring ball, I mean, that's It has to be a concern. And you and I have talked about this for a long time, that they might have some talent, but they don't have the thing where they can just plug in 5 guys and say, that's our offensive line, let's worry about something else now. They need to worry about that. And he said, Dan Larson, the offensive line coach, he has some work to do. I mean, they have some work to do up front, and that is something really different for North Dakota State.
Yeah, you always knew, like, I had heard Dylan Radins' name for 2 years before he got into the starting lineup. Sundell actually had heard for a bit. Like, this guy could be a tackle for us.
Well, no, let's be clear. Some of the young guys that they're talking about, they really like. There's like 3 young guys whose name kept coming up all of last year, but are they ready?
Griffin Empey is one, Bo Johnson, and Jack Lewinsky. Those are the 3.
Those 3 names are ones like, these guys are dudes. These guys are
all redshirt freshmen is the caveat of that.
Yep. And I have heard from offensive linemen, you know, the Cordell Volsons, guys like that. It's like, boy, Bo Johnson is as good of a true freshman as I've seen on the offensive line at NDSU, and that's coming from a Cordell Volson. That's a pretty good
praise,
and so, but again, they're redshirt freshmen, and those kids rarely play. You know, I think the kid from Brainerd that went to the NFL.
Joe Haig.
I think Joe Haig played
as a redshirt freshman, and freak show there. Billy Turner. Same thing. Played as a true freshman. They don't come along all that often.
We might. Paul Six said yesterday, we have to identify our best 5 and how they fit in, and we want 2 more. So they need 7. So they got 2 that they know. They got 5 more that they need to find.
That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I am intrigued as well, and we only have a couple minutes left, of what Cole Payton's role is going to be in 2024.
Just obsessed with Cole Payton.
I am.
You're just obsessed with Cole Payton.
But I don't know what they're going to do with him.
Did you see last year what they did with him?
It was pretty good.
Yep. Okay.
Don't you think the defenses are going to know what's coming after now?
Sure. South Dakota knew it was coming. How'd that work for them?
Still couldn't
Montana
stop them.
State knew it was coming. How'd that work for them? But, I mean, Paulsek and Randy Hedberg have both hinted at, well, maybe there's a little bit something more that we could do. And, you know, I mean, and you look up north to Grand Forks and you go, okay, Quincy Vaughn was a quarterback who now has totally switched over to tight end. But, and I don't think Cole Payton, they don't want to do that with him. But maybe the pro future for Cole Payton might be at tight end with that body. And so can you work some of that in? The balancing act is he's our backup quarterback. And so how much do you want to, and when I say our, I'm speaking from a coach's standpoint, how much do you want to put him in harm's way running pass patterns down the middle of the field? Or,
you don't want him getting blown up because
you don't want
then
him to get,
if Cam Miller somehow gets hurt, then you're left with Nathan Hayes as your quarterback, and that's not a spot you want to be in right now.
Correct. It's not what you want to do. So that's sort of the balancing act.
It's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out as the season
It's going to be a fun football year. It's, you know, I think it kind of felt like last year with losing to UND and then not making Frisco and the coaching change. It sort of felt like, okay, that year needed to happen. Like there needed to be some people saying, okay, the dynasty as we knew it is gone now.
No,
we're not going to win every game. We're not going to win every championship. But this year then feels like with a new coach, some new players, like, okay, maybe South Dakota State's going to be down a little bit. They're going to be good. Going to be down a little bit. You know, can the Bison kind of rise again to the top of FCS with what they have?
It'll be fun.
And they played Deion Sanders' team too.
in Colorado.
Wow.
August 31.
You're
Thanks
going
for
to go?
coming by, my man. Yeah, we're going.
All right. Yes.
Thanks for coming by this week.
Bet.
Appreciate it. Mike McFeely joining us here for this week. We're back next week on the Bison Media Zone. We'll see who else is in the portal. We'll see you next week, everybody, on WDAY Extra.
I'm not in the portal.